What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And today we have a very special show for you. Today we are talking about motivation. What motivates you? This is something, I hadn't really given it all that much thought until a couple of weeks ago. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, this really is very important. So as we go through our show today, we're going to talk about what motivates you, how to know specifically, like figure it out for yourself. How do you know what motivates you? And are you going in the right direction based on that? Interesting, right? Yes. So on Time to Rise and Thrive, what do? Every Friday, we're here 1 p.m. Eastern live, and we talk about things like your subliminal soundtrack. We talk about recognizing your unique beauty, your contribution to the world, your special sauce, because you have your own very special sauce that nobody else can duplicate. Did you know that? Yes. So that's the stuff that we talk about. So if you're somebody who's looking for positivity, motivation, any number of other things, or if you're struggling with mindset challenges and issues, this is a great place to be, because every single week, what happens almost all the time is that it becomes a bit of a seminar workshop sort of thing as opposed to a show. So it's disguised as a show, right? But there's really great information. Always in the third segment of the show, we talk about practical tips on what you can do when you are working with whatever we're talking about that week. So I always encourage you to grab a pen and paper and have it ready when we start that third segment. You can also find us on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can find us all over the place. We are on, I think it's over 450 platforms now, which means you can find us basically anywhere that you go for your favorite on-demand listening, learning, podcast stuff. You can find us all over the place. And Inspired Choices Network does have an app that you can an app that you can find in your whatever your store, your Google Play, your whatever it is that you've got. So you can find that app, download it, and then you can hear any of the other shows or hosts. On those platforms, you can find all the recordings. So if there's something that I say that resonates, or if we have a guest that resonates with you, then feel free to go back and look at those recordings and see if there's something there for you in one of those previously recorded episodes. Wow. I don't know what is going on today, but it seems like I'm choosing the most difficult way to say any one thing. Isn't that fun? Okay, so what are we talking about today? There are so many people out there talking about motivation, aren't there? Like we hear all the time about this thing. And it's good because it's a very important thing. What I've learned, though, is that there are different people who are motivated by different things. So how important is it for you to actually start to understand the things that will help you to stay motivated, or the things that actually may cause you to be unmotivated? How important do you think that is? Because in my humble opinion, we're talking about the difference between productivity and stagnation. It can make a difference in all kinds of stuff, in your career choices, your relationship choices, all kinds of stuff. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And again, grab your pen and paper. We've got some really good information later on in the show. Now, just before we get into the meat of it, I want to talk to you about what I mean when I say subliminal soundtrack, because that's my terminology. That's not something that you hear all over the place, but it's the same idea that you've heard people talking about, internal script. There's different terminology that people use, and it's basically the same thing. So what I'm talking about is this loop of messages that plays in the back of your mind all day, every day. It's made up of little bits of information that you've picked up throughout the course of your life. So every conversation you've had, every lesson you've learned, every relationship that you've been part of, every single experience has given you little bits of information that you gathered together and stored back there on that subliminal soundtrack. And we use that information to create our belief systems about everything. So, what does it mean to love or be loved? What does it mean to have money or not have money? What does it mean to be successful or be unsuccessful? Do you see what I'm saying? Like all of it is dictated by what's going on back there in the back of our mind. So, what often happens is when people feel stuck, when they feel like they're, have you ever been in that space where I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do? I'm trying so hard and I'm not breaking through. I'm not getting there. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's holding me back. That very often is the stuff that's living back there. So it's really important for us to get clear on what's happening back there and adjust the things that are actually putting those blocks in our way, because it's happening on a subconscious level. And what can also happen is that we can actually sabotage the things that would put us in the place that we'd like to go, that would create the circumstances we'd like to have. And all of that is because of what's playing back there on the subliminal soundtrack. So again, if this is something that resonates with you, feel free to go back and watch all of the other shows that talk about how this impacts, how this affects different parts of your life and different belief systems. All right. So today what we're talking about is this idea of motivation. So let's talk about a couple of different things that are really important. Well, first, actually, I'm going to give you a couple of uncomfortable truths before we get there. First, uncomfortable truth: what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. Did you hear that? Completely incorrect information. So when we have a belief system that is based on the stuff that maybe we learned it a million years ago when things were different in the world, think about political correctness, think about this understanding of openness and allowing people to show up as who they are, that is really pretty recent. I'm 50 years old now, and I can remember times that don't seem actually very long ago where it was perfectly normal for us to have judgments about other people based on things that may be outside of their control, or maybe based on things that we learned in our churches or our schools or from our family members, right? So that's not really all that long ago. That's that stuff that's back there. And when we start to challenge those things, we can actually open ourselves up to different possibilities. We can open up different dynamics in relationship. We can start to appreciate things that we may have judged as being bad or wrong in the past. So opening ourselves up to new opportunities, opening ourselves up to different types of people, opening ourselves up to different things can often create just this really yummy flavor in our life, right? If we're excluding things because of our judgments, then we're not allowing those people or those things to come into our space that might actually bring something really beautiful. So that's the stuff that we want to address. Now, the second uncomfortable truth, and this one might be a little bit ouchier than the first one. The second one is we create our circumstances to support the belief systems that we carry. So this is where that sabotage thing comes in, okay? Think about money just for a second, because it's really easy for a lot of us to see this stuff and understand it. Have you ever heard about, these people who win millions of dollars in the lottery in the laundry? Kim, it's gonna be one of those shows. They win millions or hundreds of millions or like huge sums of money. And then a few years later, they're completely broke. You've heard of this, right? It's a true phenomenon. So here's what happens. They have a belief system about money. And I have no judgment about this. I'm just telling you sort of what goes on in the background. They have this belief system around money, and it very likely has something to do with their not being able, willing, whatever it is, to manage or have or create a large sum of money. So when that circumstance shows up, it creates a problem. I know it's a problem, but that's what happens, because now all of a sudden their circumstances have changed in a way that they don't have that belief system to support. Oh, wow, look what I can do with this. And I can create this and I can take care of my family and whatever it is. Do you see what I'm saying? One way of being is, money is limited and it's not possible for me to have. And if you've got that belief system and you end up with a whole lot of it, then you'd better change it or you're going to find a way to rid yourself of the problem that is millions of dollars. Okay. So again, no judgment. That's how this thing works. What's going on back there will dictate what kinds of circumstances we allow into our lives. That's the bottom line. So it's really important for us to get some sort of understanding and clarity about that stuff, because you can see how this could be problematic if you're operating from these belief systems that don't allow you to have the things that you would desire to have, or those experiences, people, things, relationships that might really give you so much joy in your life, right? Yeah. So how does this work with this whole idea of motivating? If you believe that there's a right way and a wrong way to motivate people, you may be trying to motivate yourself or others using ideas and techniques that either backfire or they simply don't work. But if you understand and believe that we are all individuals, which means that we are all motivated in different ways, there are all kinds of different ways to work with people. You need to figure that out. You need to figure out the thing that works for you. You will seek to find what it is. And you can see how that could be beneficial, right? You'll seek to find what it is and create the techniques to keep yourself motivated based on those things. You are far more likely to stay motivated when you understand what works best for you. Okay. And as I was getting ready for the show today, it's interesting because I've had so many conversations with different people that I'm working with in different capacities. Some of them are clients, some of them are mentors to me, some of them are just business colleagues, and some of them are friends. But in these conversations, it was so interesting to me to sort of compare notes in my own mind, right? Like, what about this person and what about that person? It's very interesting to think about. And if you are someone who is responsible for a team, this is even more important. It's even more important to understand. So let's get into this thing. Subliminal soundtrack. Again, when we're talking about things like motivation, you're far more likely to stay motivated or to be able to motivate others when you understand. Like, think about that carrot on the stick, right? We've all sort of seen or heard about that idea. When you want to motivate, a donkey that's hauling a cart. That's how I picture it anyway. And maybe you've seen it a different way. But when you want to motivate them to put the carrot on the stick, so they're constantly moving toward the carrot, right? But what if they don't like carrots? What if whatever it is that you're trying to motivate doesn't like carrots? How effective is that going to be? Do you see what I'm saying? Right. So I'm going to share with you right now how this really showed up for me a few weeks ago and how surprising it was. It's so important for us to pay attention to the things that we're thinking about, the things that we're saying. Sometimes these things don't, it's that subliminal stuff. It's not a conscious, like, oh, I see it, I get it. And all of a sudden something will pop out of your mouth. Or if you write, maybe it pops out on the paper in front of you, whatever it is. And you're like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. So here's what happened. A few weeks ago, I was invited to be interviewed by a company. And so I decided to go ahead with it. Why not? And they asked a bunch of questions. And then they took the interview and my answers to their questions. And they wrote this article that they then shared with me. And as I was reading the article, I was actually quite surprised because, as we're talking about what we do or who we are or any number of other things, if we're not paying attention, surprising things can come out. And here the question was, what motivates you every day? And here was my response. What motivates me every day is really very simple. I know the pain of feeling trapped in the life I'd created, of feeling powerless to change things, of desperately hoping things will change, but having no idea what to do or how to do it. And I know that I can't possibly be the only person who's ever felt that way. I've worked very hard to change my own conditioning, create a new subliminal soundtrack, and break free of the limiting beliefs that used to feel so real. I want people to understand that they have a choice. And for those who are willing to choose something different, I want to help them. I want to help them do what I've done. Okay. This was a surprise to me. Now, I mean, I know that I've always been motivated by being a helper. It's always been who I am. And in our next segment, we're going to talk about some of the why that happens and how to work with it. So stick with us for just a moment. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And today we are talking what motivates you, how to figure that out and use that to keep yourself motivated and moving toward the goals that are important to you. So stick with us for a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. And today we are talking about motivation. What motivates you? It's so important for us to figure out those things that can keep us moving forward because, life gets tough sometimes. And sometimes maybe you just don't feel like it, right? It doesn't even have to be tough. Maybe I'd just rather be outside running around in the sunshine with a friend or my dog, or do you see what I'm saying? So it's important to help us stay on track. It's important to help us stay on track. So let's get real about this thing. There was a sales training that I attended many, many moons ago. And I was thinking about that this morning when I was getting ready for the show. And I tried to look it up. I could remember part of it, but I couldn't remember all of it. So I'm not 100% certain about exactly how this goes, but it all works. So one of the things that happens for those of us, especially who are self-employed and are not part of a team that we work with, it's really important for us to be able to motivate ourselves, because sometimes when you're in a team environment and you know that there's like deadlines and things, sales meetings and different things like that, rah stuff, right? The rah stuff. Okay, team, let's go. Let's get this done, right? Some of us are really motivated by that. But when you're working on your own, or when you are responsible for motivating other people, it can be hard sometimes. Like I said, it could simply be, I'd really rather go for a walk today than sit at my desk and do my work. Or it could be something has happened in your life that is making it challenging to stay on course, whatever it is. But it is important for us to understand this concept. So in this sales training, what they were talking about was 4 personality types. Now, this might be something that you're going to want to go back and listen to. So again, you can find us on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can find us on the app. You can find us on all kinds of different platforms, YouTube and iHeart Radio, and we're all over the place. So just go and search for Jackie Mott or for Time to Rise and Thrive, and you should be able to find the recordings. Okay. Go back and look for those if you need to grab a paper. If you need to take some notes and you're not in a position to do so right now. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. See, I'm motivated to continue because I'm in the middle of this thing and it's important information. Okay, 4 personality types. Now, this one is based on aquatic animals or mammals or whatever they are. And this one has stuck with me. Like, I'm going to say it's 20, 25 years. It's really stuck with me. So 4 different types of people. Okay. Whales, octopus, shark, dolphin. Whale, octopus, shark, dolphin. So you can see, like, even just already, just from those terms, those ideas of what does that represent for you? You can see how they're very different. They're very different creatures, right? So what they're talking about here is when we have a different or one of these types, there are different things that will motivate us. So for example, the whales are really very motivated by being of service. Okay, so these are people who are going to be really, really great at doing service-oriented work and, motivated by helping people and making a difference. So charity work, healthcare, any number of service-based sort of businesses are going to be really good fits for a whale. Octopus. The octopus is very structured and analytical. So for the octopus, things like statistics and spreadsheets and the numbers and all of that kind of stuff, that is the stuff that keeps the octopus interested. For our shark, they are very often motivated by things like money, recognition, significance, and they're very results driven. Okay, so this is like salespeople. Good salespeople are often sharks. Okay, and if you're a shark whale, if you're one of those personality types, because the other thing is that most of us are all of these. It's just a matter of where they fit in order for each of us. So if you're a shark and also a whale, then you're going to be a service-oriented salesperson. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes. So rah, bonuses, sales, money, these kinds of things are very motivating for our shark. For dolphins are motivated by fun. They are really great in team environments. They are really great in things that require us to work together, and things that might motivate them would be like, a group incentive. Let's go on a trip, or let's do this activity, the team building activities that you hear people doing all the time. So let's take that for an example. A shark may not be all that interested in a team building activity. An octopus probably is not going to be terribly excited about a team building activity. A whale might be. It might be because they might be thinking, okay, well, this is going to help us to function better as a team. This is going to help the individuals to engage. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's all about what type of personality trait is dominant for you. Now, again, we all have some breakdown of at least 3 and probably all 4. It's a matter of figuring out where they fit in priority for you. So when we think about this, whales and dolphins probably work better in teams, right? They work better in things where we are working together. I'm not on my own. But then you have the shark and the octopus, who are very likely really good on their own. And again, think about these animals in the wild, right? You've got whales and dolphins. I'm not sure if this is correct for both of them, but pods, right? They travel in pods. They have family units, where sharks and octopus very often are sole predators, right? They don't generally work together. Now, interesting, because when you look at their strengths, so a dolphin can take out a whale, not by itself usually. right? But a dolphin in its pod, in its family unit, can take out a whale or a shark, even though they are not from a predatory standpoint, they're not, higher on the food chain. But when they work together, when they use their strengths, they can take out much larger creatures. Do you see what I'm saying? Which again benefits them from that pod standpoint. And if you think about that when you're thinking about how to motivate yourself or others, if the dolphin is part of your, like one of your top two, I would say, it's a thing that you need to consider. And maybe working on your own is not really a great fit for you if you are a dolphin. Whale, maybe, but dolphin, probably not so much. It's that thing where we feed off of other people, or we would rather not. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because there are some people, like, being social is just not a priority. It's not part of their makeup, and that's okay. That would probably be more someone that's along the lines of that octopus personality. So shark and dolphin are probably going to do better with that rah rah, like, let's go team. Whale and octopus are probably not going to be terribly motivated by that thing, right? Now they may. Okay, so again, like, none of this is written in stone, but I would like you to use your discernment, your awareness, to sort of see what kinds of things would be appropriate for any one of these creatures in the wild. What kinds of things would you expect for any of these creatures in the wild? If you wouldn't expect, hunting in a pack or a pod to be a thing for one of these things, then perhaps group activities or, sales meetings where the whole team is brought together is not going to be the thing that's going to really work for those kinds of people. So this was really interesting this morning as I was thinking about this, because I thought, wow, it's a new thing. It's a relatively new thing where they're talking about, you know, different children learn in different ways. I would say, I'm going to say within the last maybe 15 years, that idea has really sort of started to come up. And it's very true, isn't it? Think about this, exactly what we're talking about right now. If you have one student who is very motivated by good grades, now I'm not going to say that they're necessarily any one of these things, because I think that some of this stuff is ingrained and some of it actually is a result of our environment and what we learn. Okay. But if you have someone who is really motivated by grades, then they're probably going to require different stuff than somebody who just really enjoys learning. Right. So it's important to know those things when you're trying to motivate those students, when you're trying to motivate your workforce or your staff or whatever, your coworkers. It doesn't matter what it is, your family members, right? Know who they are and what they need. And it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to keep them on track and keep them going. So think about this for just a second. Can you imagine, based on what we just talked about, a shark getting into accounting? It can happen and it can work, right? As long as their octopus is in that second position. If you have the shark who is motivated by all of this, like the money, the recognition, the things like that. And again, I have no judgment. These are just the personality types. You have that person, then unless they have octopus like right up close in the second position, they're probably not going to be all that excited about the numbers, right? Or about the statistics or about any number of other factors in doing that work. If you have a dolphin that wants to go into accounting, that could be painful. That could be very painful. So sharks going into healthcare. We really like natural fit and finding that thing in your career, in your relationships, and whatever it is. Natural fit is very important. If you have a whale going into healthcare, well, that makes perfect sense. And they're probably going to fit well and enjoy that kind of work, right? Because they are about being of service. So this is the thing, understanding who you are, understanding maybe even the combination of factors that helps you to be who you are can save you a lot of trouble if you understand that. So what I'm thinking about is for our kids, how interesting might it be for us to think in terms of this and help them to think in terms of this so that they can start to think about natural fit as they're going through this process of figuring out what they want to be when they grow up, right? I mean, we know, well, I don't know if you know, I know teachers that have gone into that profession because they wanted their summers off, not because they enjoyed teaching, not because they loved children, not because they wanted to impart wisdom, not because, do you see what I'm saying? I'm motivated because I have a good pension plan and I have my summers off. Yay. What happens when you're stuck in that room with 30 screaming kids, right? It's and that often, unfortunately, is reflected in how people do their jobs, isn't it? Right. So figuring out that natural fit, where would you thrive? What kinds of work would be a really easy thing for you to undertake once you learn the skills? Might save us a whole lot of trouble. I'm just saying. All right. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. When we come back from our break, if you don't already have that pen and paper, we're going to talk about some of this, like how do we figure this bit out? Very important information. So grab that pen and paper or find the replay when you're in a position to take notes. So stick with us for a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. Today we are talking about motivation. How important is that really? And, if you're paying attention, I think you might be starting to understand that it is kind of important. Kim said to me on the break, this is such fascinating stuff. The human mind is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I'm just going to sort of sidetrack us really quickly here. Human mind is amazing because it processes information. It creates these belief systems. Where it is limited is that it doesn't allow for new possibilities. And that is where it's important for us to break free of our conditioning and open ourselves up to new stuff that we might not be aware of. It's very much like a computer. Okay. The computer, the information, and I mean, I work in accounting, right? So the computer can do the work really quickly for me, much, much faster than it used to in the old days where people used to have ledgers and they'd have to use calculators or, those things, I think it's an abacus, those things that add things up for you. Yeah. Right. It's a whole lot faster. It's a whole lot easier to do things on the computer. But what happens if I hit one key wrong? If I hit one key wrong, then the whole thing is out of whack, right? That's what our mind is like. It processes the information it has based on what we have provided. So when we have those belief systems, it's going to say, okay, so judgment versus allowance, right? Judgment, it's wrong to be this person. It's right to be like this. It's, and think about religion, and I have no judgment. I have no judgment about religion, but that's one of those things where, sometimes we have this idea of like love each other, treat each other with kindness and compassion and respect. And I think that most religions sort of boil down to that sort of way of living. Take care of each other, love each other, right? And then they add all of these different rules that say, oh, you're a woman, therefore you're not as good as a man. And the man is the one who gets to make the decisions. And we segment out something that could be a very valuable part of that community, of that entire way of being, right? Or any number of other things. It's not just about, gender or religion or any number of other things. But when we segment out pieces based on what that computer tells us is right or wrong or good or bad, when we segment things out, there's so much information that isn't available to us, right? So what we're talking about here, and one of the things that I really was considering this morning is this motivation, these 4 personality types. And do they change? Can they change as your life evolves, as you reach different stages? And I'm going to say that I think they can. I think that they can move depending on where you're at. Even just think about money for a second. If a shark is really money motivated and somebody finds themselves in a financial position where they need to take action to correct things or create money because they're in trouble or whatever it is like that, being able to pull from that shark place to get themselves into a different position might be a really great thing, don't you think? Right. Or if you find yourself, for example, going into a job that's very team oriented and you happen to be a little bit more inclined to be the octopus, if you could pull from that dolphin or that whale that might be a little bit more team friendly, wouldn't that help you in that workplace, in that career, in that whatever the case may be? Do you see what I'm saying? So if these things were written in stone, then I think it might be really tough to change. But I think that there's a certain amount of this that's up to us. And isn't that great news? So let's get to work on that stuff back there that tells us that these things are valuable in this position. And what if we could develop those skills? What if we could say, okay, so these are the natural ways that I fit into the world. And in this circumstance, pulling these factors in, right? Wouldn't that make us more adaptable? Wouldn't that make it easier for us to work with whatever circumstances we're working with right now? It's an interesting thing to consider. All right, so let's get into the meat of it. And then I'm going to share with you some kind of exciting stuff that's going on, but let's get into the meat of it first. So the first thing is based on these 4 personality types. So again, we've got whale, we've got octopus, we've got shark, and we've got dolphin. So based on these 4 personality types, which one of you or which one of them do you think best describes you at your natural place? So we're not talking about working with things and building skills. We're talking about in your natural state, which one? So for me, the whale is clearly my number one. And then I'm not sure. There's a couple of ones. The dolphin and the octopus are a little bit interchangeable for me because I do have a very curious analytical mind sometimes. So also really love to have fun. So I think those two are a little bit, pretty close, if not tied for second. And shark is last. Shark is last. It is not necessarily the thing that will get me going. And then that creates some interesting dynamics, doesn't it? Because part of being self-employed is selling, isn't it? I mean, if no one knows that you're here, how do you sell your services? How do you make a living? Do you work for free? Does anyone work for free? Should anyone work for free? Interesting ideas, right? So if you're not a person who's terribly motivated by money and you find yourself in a place where you are self-employed and you have no choice but to sell your services, do you see what I'm saying about this? Could we figure out how to develop some of these pieces of ourselves in order to benefit us in different circumstances? So becoming a little bit more money oriented, a little bit more numbers oriented, a little bit more results driven is not a bad thing if you're somebody who's self-employed, because you cannot count on the income from a job or, a pension or anything like that. So important for us to get clear on what naturally motivates us and also on what might be helpful to us based on whatever it is that we're working with at the time. So rank them so that you're clear on, okay, so naturally I'm a whale with, I'm going to say dolphin as second, the octopus is third, and shark is fourth. For me, that's my natural makeup. Okay. So you can also see how accounting has not been the best choice for me from a career standpoint. I can do the work. I'm good at doing the work. Do I enjoy it? Not so much. There are factors of it that I enjoy. I love the being of service to people. I love helping. I love different pieces of this. I even love the puzzle part of it because I think that really plays to my dolphin. It's a game. It's a thing that, gets me, ooh, find that number that we can't figure out. Nobody else can find this number. It becomes a game. Okay. So do you see what I'm saying? We work with it. We can work with it and create the way that works best for us. I remember a few years ago, one of the things that I did was a really rough year. It was a really, really rough year. And I was going through tax season and I was finding it very difficult to push through and very difficult to stay motivated. And I remember that year I went into shark mode because what I did was I had all of these piles of work on my desk and finances were a challenge that particular season. And so what I did was I created this game. I was like, okay, so this is a pile of so many dollars. This is a pile of so much money. This is another pile of so many dollars. Do you see what I'm saying? So I made it into a bit of a game. How quickly could I get to the prize? How quickly could I get through? And obviously doing the job properly, but that was my motivation, was instead of sitting and whatever was going on and feeling the way that I was feeling, it was like, oh, I have a game. So figuring out how to work with this stuff can be the thing that takes us out of stagnation or out of stuck mode and helps us to get ourselves moving or keep ourselves moving when it's necessary to do so. So the second thing that I'm going to ask you, and this can be really important for you to know, like, just, it's so important to know ourselves. What keeps you engaged and excited? So are you somebody that, if there's this team building thing, are you going to be excited about it? Or if they say, okay, so the person who reaches this, I don't know, sales amount, whatever, reaches this goal, the first person to get there is going to get a trip to someplace. Is that something that motivates you? Does your paycheck motivate you? And all of these things are okay. All of them are okay. It's just understanding how we function best. Now, what makes you feel unmotivated? What makes you feel unmotivated? These are important things to understand, because when you've got to light that fire under yourself to get yourself moving in the right direction, those are the things that you need to watch out for. One of the things that came up for me this morning was I was thinking about, how this is so important in every area, not just from a work point of view, right? Because our work is important, and we spend a lot of time. Generally, most of us spend a good portion of our day, our week, our year on our work, whatever it might be. So it's important from a work, but what about from relationships? What about from relationships? So imagine that you have a whale who is very motivated to be of service and very motivated to help. And that's the thing that helps them feel good about what they're doing and motivate themselves and all of those things. And they find themselves with somebody who is really not interested in being of service or helping anyone but themselves. Does that not then benefit the whale to understand who they are, how they operate, where they might have a blind spot, And I'm sure that this would be true for all of them, wouldn't you think? But think about that for a second, because we all have blind spots, don't we? We all have things that we don't see. What's in other people see them long before we do, don't they? Right. So we all have those blind spots. Imagine if you were able to be aware of what type of thing motivates you, what type of thing demotivates you, what type of thing creates those blind spots so that you can start to function from the best place that you can function. Because blind spots don't have to be traumatic. They don't have to be a thing that, okay, let's go back to the whale. If you put a whale with someone who is really interested in their own stuff, then the whale will very likely be taken advantage of unless they are aware of what is naturally going on for them and they are able and willing to put those boundaries in place and to keep their eye on what's happening. Do you see what I'm saying? So you don't have to necessarily fall prey to the flaw, weakness, blind spot of any of these things if you're aware of it. That's the power position. When we know ourselves really well, then we aren't as likely to put ourselves in positions where things go awry because we're not paying attention or because we come up against the wrong kind of person. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to share with you, just before we wrap up the show today, I'm going to share with you some really exciting stuff. So first thing that I'm going to share, I've talked about it the last few shows. There's been an idea that's been playing in the back of my mind for a very long time. So remember what I said to you at the top of the show. What motivates me? What motivates me is to get this stuff out there, because I know what it's like to live not understanding that I have choices, that I can change things, that there are things that are possible. I know what that's like. I know how painful that is. And it's become my mission to get that information out to as many people as I can, to let them know that they have choices. And then whatever they choose is up to them. Okay. When we're operating from choice, it's not up to anybody else to tell you what is right and wrong. It's up to you to decide and discern what the right choice is for you. Okay. And that's the thing. So when we become aware that we have all of this available to us, then everything changes. And that is why this has become so very important to me. So monthly mindset masterclass is a thing that has been sort of playing around in the back of my mind for a couple of years. I recently was offered an opportunity to create that program on a platform. So I don't have the link in front of me. I will have it for you next week. This thing is going to be so much fun for me. It's going to be so much fun. So what it is we're going to do a 60 to 90 minute class every single month. First Monday, I think, is the day we decided, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to get on a Zoom call, and it will be 60 to 90 minutes. We're going to have a conversation about sort of a common mindset challenge or issue. And then we're going to sort of pull it apart a little bit. And for those of you who like a little bit more one-on-one, a little bit more support with things, or you find that something really is a little bit deeper than you can get with the information that's going to be available in the class, there will also be an upgrade option for a mastermind session where we will actually do that. Well, we get together in a small group and we'll talk about specifics of what are happening for you. So I'm very excited about this. It is ready to go. We have been doing all of this work in the background. It is launching, and the first class will be October 1st. So if you are somebody who is interested in having more of that information or having a little bit of time with me each month, you can find me on Facebook at Jackie Mott Mindset and Empowerment Expert. You can find me at jackiemott.com. Both of those places, you will get all kinds of information. If you go to jackiemott.com and download the free ebook, it is 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. If you do that, then you'll get on the mailing list. And as we send out this information, you will be one of the first to know. Second thing is the Believe All Things Are Possible will be bumped a little bit. We're going to start that in January instead of in October. And there will be a webinar series, a free webinar series that I will be running in December. So go either to jackiemott.com or go to Facebook, Jackie Mott Mindset and Empowerment Expert. Like and follow that page, and you will see those updates, registration information, all kinds of stuff will be coming out in the very near future. So that's the yummy wonderfulness. Do you see what happens when we open ourselves up, when we take action in the proper direction, when we understand who we are and what we do well and what we might like to do and start to work on those things, or find someone else who does those things well. I was just thinking about Kim. So Kim is my producer. She's with me most weeks. I love her. Absolutely love her. Kim is very, very creative. She's very creative. And I was thinking as we're doing this, I'm like, wonder how she would manage in a factory job. I don't know. I don't know if that would be something that would be a good fit. I know it wouldn't be a good fit for me. So do you see what I'm saying? Getting to understand what motivates us, what is natural fit, what helps us to keep functioning, what helps us to keep moving forward. So blind spots. Knowing how to motivate yourself can make the difference between productivity and stagnation. Like I said, that one tax season, it was about making it a game, because as long as I could keep in that frame of mind, then I would uncover those pile of money every day and get excited about it and celebrate it. Okay. So knowing that stuff just helps you to keep on track and helps you to keep motivated. So that is what I've got for you today, my friends. We will be back next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, we are here. Next week, we have a very special show. Ranchelle Van Brace will be with us. She is awesome. She is fast becoming one of my closest people in business. I adore her. And next week, we're going to be talking about a summit that she is doing, I believe the week after, called Clarity, Confidence, Connection. It is going to be amazing. And of course, I'm going to be one of the speakers on that summit as well. So there will be information on the Facebook page on how to register for your free ticket. Free ticket. There are going to be a whole bunch of people. So Ranchelle will be with me next Friday. We will be talking all about her summit and about what made this happen for her. It is a story. It is quite a story. It's very exciting. So if you would like a little bit more information about clarity, about connection, any number of different things, just join us next Friday. We'll be back here 1 p.m. Eastern on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. And outside of that, don't forget, you can go and download that 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success ebook at jackiemott.com. Get on the mailing list so that you will have all kinds of information as it becomes available. Find me on Facebook, Jackie Mott Mindset and Empowerment Expert. And you will also, if you like and follow the page, you will also get those updates as they come out. So I just want to say thank you so much for being with me today. I love Fridays. I love, even when it's a tough week, it helps me, it helps me stay motivated. Isn't that fun? So thank you so much for being part of my world. Thank you so much for the energy and the contribution that you are to me when you join with the show. Don't forget to come back and find us here again next week with Ranchelle Van Brace, the Clarity, Confidence, Connection Summit. Thanks so much. Have a great week. We'll see you next Friday.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.